Good morning, everybody. This is Boulder Uphill, and I am your host, Brian Whitehill. Now, if you can't tell by my face on the screen or by my voice, it is the morning. And if it's morning for you, good morning. We're waking up together. Have your coffee. I just finished mine. It was a pumpkin spice. Sounds so basic. Pumpkin spice coffee from Trader Joe's, and I started a new method where I used to make cold brew in batches, and I literally have this big cold brew pitcher, and I also have a bag that's like meant for steeping things, whether it's tea or coffee, and I would put a bunch of the coffee grounds in that bag, and then I'd put it in the big pitcher, and then I would let that sit for 20 hours or so, and then I would have a big pitcher for the week. But I started realizing that when I have a plentiful amount of cold brew in this giant pitcher, I'm going to have more than I should. So what I've started doing, and what's actually a fantastic method, and I highly recommend, is if you have a French press, you can make regular French press coffee if it's hot, in the morning. Get the hot water and pour it in and all that stuff in the morning if you want your hot coffee. But if you want cold brew every morning, what I do now is I make the proper amount that I would be drinking, and I make that in advance the morning before. So then when I wake up, there's a French press full of cold brew waiting for me. And I pour that into a big glass for myself, throw some ice, and then I'll re-prepare the French press for tomorrow morning. So it's like I'm always helping out future Brian, And if that's not something we should be striving for, I don't know what else to say. Cold brew metaphors. Good morning. This is Boulder Uphill. If it's your first time to the show, welcome to the show. If you're returning, welcome back. For all of you who don't know who I am by now, Brian Whitehill. This is the show where we find comedy and shared misery. We discuss trending topics, and we reflect on the uphill battles of pursuing a bold and creative life. That is called a tagline for the show. And did I practice it before this? Of course I did. To everyone who, first off, I got to give a big thank you to everyone who's listened so far, because a month ago, we hit a milestone. We've got over 1,000 downloads on this little passion project of mine, and it's growing, and the community's growing, and it's really exciting. And all of my guests have been incredible, and they've all brought different bits of insight to my life, and hopefully to yours, and also just to the show as a whole. And we have some exciting guests coming up that we now have like a bank of episodes. I have multiple episodes lined up on my hard drive, and so we're getting to a point now where I think my workflow might start including, a guest one week and then me the following week, because I don't want to. How long has it been since I've done a solo episode and talked to you guys? Too long, and so I'm real rusty, and I want to start doing these more consistently. So I'm not trying to fit in a bunch of things into one long episode. I'd rather have them be bite-sized episodes as opposed to one giant brain dump. So. Yeah, I'm really. I don't want to give all the names of all the upcoming people I've got on the list, but just some cool stuff, and some people you might know from TV, and someone that is personal to me that was my acting coach in New York, and so there's significance. Yeah. And that's that. So thank you all for being here. Lot to talk about today, and I'm slowly realizing as I'm recording this that number one, I need a new couch. I bought this couch when I first got into this apartment from a guy, and it's a nice little like West Elm couch, but I looked at the tag on it, and it's a solid 5 to 6 years old, and the cushions on it are not very comfortable. So I'm gonna have to look into that, because this thing is just not. I'm literally. I feel the wood frame right now as I'm sitting on these cushions. Not good. And number two, I hope for the first time ever we got the AC going, because I realized it's 2020 and I can't live like this in a world where I record episodes without AC on, because I'll just start sweating and I start shining, and then I get all uncomfortable. and it affects everything, including my demeanor and including the quality of the episode. So we're gonna see what happens with this. The topics of today, the three main topics that we got, just to give you guys an update on what's been going on in my life. Number one, I visited New York City about a month ago, and I had a wonderful time. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I was worried about visiting, and the media shows all these major cities in a certain light right now, and also the media sucks in general and shows everybody in a certain light right now. Everything and everyone, and it's always biased, and everybody's biased, and that's the world. And I wanted to dispel some of those rumors and talk about the time that I had over there. Number two, driving in LA, man. My car Trey, he's had quite a month. So I need to share the things that happen with my car so that you will know what to. No, I don't have any advice to give. All I know is that it's a crazy world on the driving streets of LA, and I need you all to know about it. And number three, weirdly timely. Does that work? Weirdly timely? No. Whatever. Timely topic after my episode with Rachel Josefina, because she talked all about mindset and all about, what the energy we give out to the universe. I have found, weirdly, in the last month or so, a shift in the way that I handle things and approach every day, and also like the stresses of every day. And everybody can relate to that, because right now, at all times, everybody's going through something. But right now specifically, there's a lot to stress about, and there's a lot to be anxious about. And I have felt a weird positive shift in my life that I don't know if I've ever necessarily felt before. So I wanted to share like how that's going for me, and also like if anyone else can adopt that into their life. Because I promise you, I'm not trying to be any type of guru, but the other day I was in my car and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize it, but this is how I've been approaching things, and it's actually been working out pretty well for me so far. So that's topic number three, and maybe some little bits of things in between then. But actually, first off, I saw Tenet the other day. My first time seeing a movie in 6 months, a long time. No, I guess since before quarantine started. I had AMC A-List, and I cannot recommend that enough. You pay $20 a month, and you can see 3 movies a week. That's 12 movies a month for $20. And it was fantastic, and I was seeing movies constantly, and then obviously quarantine hit. I hadn't seen a movie in 6 months, but a big IMAX theater is open in Orange County, so I went with a few friends, and holy shit, man. I had read a couple reviews, and I shouldn't have. Because everybody's like, it's just it's a jumbled, confusing mess with not much to say. But that's not true. If you like Christopher Nolan, go see Tenet. I have to see it again because I will say the first half is very expositional, but it's so good. John David Washington kills it, and usually I'm iffy on him because I saw him in Black Klansman, and he's a good actor. But he also like comes off sometimes very like theatrical, which very hypocritical coming from me. But that was like what I got from him in Black Klansman. And then in this, I started to get a little bit of that. Like other people were just kind of, they were like existing, and he was like being like a showman, but he kills it. He really does. And Robert Pattinson in it kills it. And Kenneth Branagh kills it as the Russian villain. I mean, Tenet is essentially if you took a Christopher Nolan movie, or no, if you took a Bond movie, James Bond style movie, and made it a Christopher Nolan movie and added in like time elements. So highly recommend Tenet. And I can't talk too much about it because it's one of those ones where if I start going into details, it's going to ruin things. And all I know is I have to see it again because there's a lot in there to unpack that I think with a second watch through, oh man, it's crazy. Whoa, I'm just thinking about it. How I can't talk about it. This is so frustrating. Why did I start talking about something that I can't talk about? Don't do that, Brian. Go see Tenet. It was cool. It was very cool. And don't believe the reviews. You can't trust reviews for anything anymore. Also, point in case on that, Zoolander has a 25% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and we all know that that's not true. So rarely can you ever listen to critics' reviews, because also I remember seeing negative reviews about Blade Runner 2049, and I was like, okay, I don't trust anyone ever again in my whole life. And that's Tenet. And so let's get into New York City. So first off, I have to say this because this is recent news for New York, and it affects so many people that I know and I love, and the community over there. It was just announced that Broadway is dark until it's essentially shut down until May 2021, which is huge. And I've read some really touching articles written by Broadway performers about what it feels like to be over there, or to have been in a Broadway musical or play, obviously anything over there, when everything hit the fan, and then kind of just existing in this limbo world of are we going to open again? What's it looking like? And then Broadway got shut down, and then they said it was till January 2021. And when that news was released, I was like, there's no way that they're going to open in January in the dead of winter, and also in the dead of flu season with everybody still on edge. So like that came out, and I was like, no, we're going to be waiting for another update. And then 2 days ago, 2 nights ago, it was, or at least at the time of this recording, 2 nights ago, it was released that it'll be May of 2021. And I hope that is the final cutoff. After that, open it up and figure it out. Sell limited seats, but we got to get these things open again. So my heart and thoughts are with all the artists are already, especially Broadway performers. It's such a specific market over there. But that's the thing, is it's not just performers. It's the stagehands, it's the people who build the sets, it's the people who do the costumes, it's the musicians in the pit, it's the people who work at the Broadway houses. Like, there is such a large community over there, and in New York of all places. I mean, regional theater is a whole other thing, which has also been affected. But in New York, that is like half of that brings in tourism. That is that brings so much into their economy that it's a big hit. It's a very big hit. And so I'm just thinking about all of them, and I wanted to give just a brief moment to touch on that, because it sucks. It really, really sucks. And I'm now seeing people online, like, people were already moving out of New York, and also a lot of people are moving from New York to LA. So the timing of my move was very interesting, because it was what, 7-8 months before everything hit the fan. But now I'm seeing like Broadway performers kind of be like, all right, this is now my time to transition, and I'm moving to LA. And like, I read an article, a guy that was in Chicago the musical. He was just talking about like, and also I have friends on Facebook. Like I know all these people. Like, I know people that were involved in the community, and there will be some on the show in the future. And it's just a big deal. The fact that that industry is shut down for over a year, like that, I could go on and on about it, but I digress. So that is that. Yeah, such a bummer. And I was over there, and I walked by Moulin Rouge on Broadway that I wanted to see, because it's one of my favorite movies. So it's God, it's so weird, because it's the whole time I was planning this episode, I was like, I'm gonna talk about how great it was to visit New York, but there are like it's sure, it was wonderful to see my friends and also walk around the city and get the energy back of like being amongst city folk. At least in like a tall metropolitan big city like that. It's different in LA, obviously, with everybody driving in their cars. And I had this whole like, wow, I'm gonna talk about how fantastic, wow. But like, the news came out the other day, and I was like, damn, it's I mean, I guess this is now the time that we get into talking about New York. But to close all that, I'm to close the Broadway talk. I'm thinking about everybody involved with Broadway and all my friends. And I love you guys, and it's gonna come back stronger than ever. People are gonna miss it so much, and also like that trickles to other states into their regional theaters. It also was becoming more mainstream. So my hope is that I mean that's one of the original art forms in terms of storytelling is on a stage. Like that trickles into everything that we know, and it's brought into translations on screen, and like stage plays are made into films and all this stuff. So it's my hope is that there's gonna be a boom after. It's gonna be tough. So just thinking about all of you guys, and I guess now we get into New York talk. So I was hesitant about visiting New York because the media was like, "Oh my God, it's classified as an anarchist state now." I don't know if that's still in place, but I guess because there's been minimal law enforcement in terms of like dealing with protesters or something like that. I don't know the ins and outs of why it was classified as an anarchist state. I don't know. I don't want to pretend to know all the legalities there, but I know that it was because not enough actions were taken against protesters, which we all know you can't judge a movement by its most violent. So I think the media has just been the media sucks. We know that. So anyway, classified as an anarchist state, yada yada yada. And I was like, I wanted to visit my friends in April, but obviously couldn't. And so I was like, you know what? When did I go? Last half of September. I was like, the last half of my September is slow right now. So let's do it. And I booked a last minute trip because I had some a travel bank credits with an airline. And so I just chose to do it. And I was like, look, worst case scenario, I'm going to be staying in my old apartment with some of my best friends, and I don't need to go anywhere. It's literally just to go hang out with my friends. I know New York. I don't need to go to the top of the Empire State Building. Like, I don't need to go do a bunch of touristy stuff over there. And also, there's not much touristy stuff to do, I guess. Maybe there was, and I just didn't do it. But so I decided to go against my my family's wishes. They were like, "What? You're going to New York? But it's crazy over there." And I was like, I've talked to my friends, and they all have said that they're doing just fine, and that life is mostly normal. I mean, mostly normal. How normal can it be right now? But because there's a whole thing about, like, okay, look, yeah, there's rising crime rates. All right, I could go into all the numbers because I did the research that made me more scared to visit. But while I was there, I realized that the parts that I would hang out in and the part that I lived in, they were angsty, but not not much different than I expected. And I think that obviously the dangerous areas of any city right now have gotten more dangerous, and those are not spots that I went to anyway. I mean, you can't downplay numbers. Like, obviously, facts are facts. But in terms of the feeling, I made sure to check in with all my friends, and I was like, look, I'm going to be visiting. Am I going to be scared out of my mind? Like, what's the deal? Because I hadn't been there in over a year. And obviously, with everything hitting the fan, and you see the news, and you're like, God, is everything on fire? What's going on? But I can confirm nothing was on fire, which is good. But I also didn't do that much. Anyway, point of all that is, yeah, I went and I was there for about 10 days, and I hung out with my best friends, or some of them, in my old apartment, and it was great. And also, Cliff introduced me to VR, the world of VR. That's literally what he's been doing in his downtime. I mean, quarantine was nothing but downtime. So he got a PlayStation VR, and it's so fun and so scary at the same time, because VR, I thought it was all gimmicky, and I was like, oh yeah, VR, put on a stupid little headset and fucking pretend to shoot people. But oh my God, when you are in it, it's crazy. You get lost in it. So it's like, we're now at the tip of the iceberg with the VR world. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, virtual reality is like becoming a thing. Like, Oculus Quest is a headset that I now want to buy because it's actually becoming more affordable. But the scary thing is it's owned by Facebook, and Facebook, you have to sign in with your Facebook account to activate the VR headset, which they want your data. And if you've watched Social Dilemma, that's a whole conversation worth having. And the reason why I'm trying being the main word, trying to stay off social media, because all they want is our attention and our data. And there are not enough regulations on Daddy Zuck collecting our data. Overlord Mark Zuckerberg wants all of our data. And we need to regulate that shit. There needs, like it was in the Social Dilemma, they talk about how there needs to be tax on big corporations. If they want to collect X amount of data from us, they need to be taxed 100%. Or limitations. How about I wish that my phone wasn't listening to me right now, because now that I'm talking about this, I'm going to see an ad for Oculus Quest. Guarantee it. Like, that's scary shit. But with VR, it's simultaneously scary and really exciting because it's opening up a new world. And guys, I'm telling you, this is going to sound like real future talk right now, but Mark Zuckerberg's already talked about how they're working with like VR workspaces. So there might be a future. No, there probably will. It's probably not even a might. There's likely to be a future where, again, who knows how often we're going to talk on this, because there's just always going to be new developments, but it's very likely there's going to be a future where people that go into an office building, or don't even have to go into an office building now that we have all this virtual work from home stuff, but let's just say everybody's still renting out commercial real estate for businesses in 30 years, 40 maybe, who knows? There might be a future, and someone's going to look back on this video and laugh at how old-timey I sound. There might be a future where you sit down at this blank desk with nothing on it, maybe just a keyboard, and you put on your VR headset, and all of a sudden you see your Word docs, you see this, and you're like, I don't really like this setting. I want to be on a beach right now while I'm working on this. Boom, you're working on a beach, and you can use your hand and you pick up a virtual something and you toss it, and then you're like, all right, cool, done with that. Move that over there, and you're just looking into this giant virtual workspace, and then also, there could be virtual meetings. I mean, there are. It's currently happening. There are virtual meetings. People are gathering in rooms virtually and looking at each other. Andre and Cliff, in the VR world, the gaming world, there's a game called Rec Room, and they've literally been in the same virtual room with each other and like played basketball, and they're able to look around, and it's just, look, I can't paint a proper picture. All I can say is VR is crazy. And you might be laughing and you might be turning this off by now, but I'm saying it's going to be our reality at some point. So we gotta simultaneously embrace it hesitantly, but also excitedly. Yeah. There's this game called Super Hot, which, who named it that? Don't know. Where it's practically like the Matrix, and so there's guys shooting at you, and it looks like an old like Nintendo game. It doesn't even, the graphics are not great, but it's the gameplay. So there's like guys in front of you shooting at you, and you control time. So as fast as you move is as fast as time goes. So if you don't move, time is stopped. And so you can look and see bullets coming at you. You're like, all right, bullets are stopped in the air. How do I dodge these? And you can move really slowly, and you're like, all right, I'm going to dodge that one on the right. I'm going to pick up this bottle on the left. Okay, and I'm going to pause again. Okay, cool. And then you can toss the bottle really fast, and everything starts moving fast, and you pause again. And you just feel like Neo in the Matrix. It's outrageous. I got lost in it. And also, Cliff and I introduced Austin to it. Austin Michael, he'll be on the show later. He's one of my best friends as well. We introduced him to it. He had never tried VR either. And it was hilarious because he was loving it. And there's meditation apps. And when he was playing Super Hot, he was like on the ground crawling and like trying to shoot. And then he ran into the bed, which was hilarious. He hit his head on the bed. I mean, not hard, but he knocked the headset into the bed because he was trying to dodge a bullet. And we all laughed. And that's a PSA to make sure that you're playing in an open area. VR is crazy. But the point of all that was me talking about New York City. And look, all I got to say is I went over there to to see my best friends and the people I used to live with. And Andre was gone. I think he's going to be visiting LA at some point in the next month. So I'll see him, but I got to hang out with Austin and Cliff primarily. And I used to live with them, and they're wonderful people. So I had a blast. I got to reconnect with people, and I have my community in New York City is very large, and that was the tough part about voice crack. It's been the tough part about being in LA is that my community over here is very small, and obviously, anytime you move to a new city, you have to give it time to expand and to make new friends. And that's been and also my first year in New York City was similar to this, but also the world didn't go on pause 6 months in. So I felt like a lot more free when I was visiting New York, and honestly it was kind of hard to leave because I was like, dang, like I feel very comfortable here and just like hanging out with my old roommates. And then I came back to my empty LA apartment because my roommate's been gone since March, and I'm not sure when he's coming back. But I mean, it's been cool living alone, but at the same time, isolating, as we know all about this time. So there were pros and cons, but I mean, at the end of the day, I moved to LA for a reason. It just visiting New York made me, I mean, nostalgic. I'm a very nostalgic person as it is, but it made me realize like that I mean, look, the dream is to be bicoastal. And being out there, I was like, I could swing this. Like, I want to visit more because when I was in New York, I would visit my family every few months. So I'm like, why would I not be trying to do that with the family that I gained in New York as well? You know, so now that I'm out here, I mean, I'm close to my, you know, my real family out here. But why wouldn't I be trying to see other people, the other people I care about that just happen to be 3,000 miles away? So it got my mind spinning about like visiting people and wanting to just, you know, try to get breaks from LA when I can, because it's important to get out. And yeah, I mean, I don't know when I'll be financially able to just be hopping on a plane every few months, but it just made it more in my brain like, okay, this is a goal to be able to just exist free floating, I guess. Whatever, you know what I mean. It was just nice to see everybody. So I did that. I made it back safe, and the anarchist state was okay. And I guess I have to research that because I'm not sure. Is it still classified as an anarchist state? I'm not sure. But yeah, it was great. So I'm not going to say go visit New York because also right now, I will say I was responsible, and obviously everyone was wearing masks, and we were very safe, and all was well. And you know, there were restaurants with patios, which that's going to be a whole other thing when winter hits, because already okay, 60. I worry about the economics of New York because 60% of restaurants closed and a lot of storefronts closed, and it was very sad to walk through like even spots in Hell's Kitchen I used to go to around the theaters. Restaurants I used to go to were closed, so that was tough. It is, and so I worry about the economics of New York. But right now, there's a thing online where I came across like a Reddit forum, and people were like, "Is right now a good time to visit New York?" And New Yorkers were like, "No, don't come here right now, because you know it's preventing the spread, and they don't want any outsiders visiting." So on that note, I just have to say I was responsible, and I was mostly hanging out in the apartment the whole time, and then we go out to the deli, grab a sandwich or whatever, bring it back. Cliff has become a crazy cook during all of this, so he was cooking. We went out to 2 restaurants in my time there, so I was responsible, New Yorkers, I promise, and all is well, and we're safe. And also, my first time ever getting a COVID test a few weeks ago. It was the nose swab. This was post New York. The nose swab, not comfortable at all, but that was negative. I wasn't worried in the first place, but I worked a job where they were like, all right, and then we're going to be testing you on site before you go in, just blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And it was a 15-minute result, and all's good. So New York, that was that. And I love all my people over there, and I was able to see the big ones, and I missed a few others that I miss. But also, right now is not the time to be like, hey, everybody, I'm in town, let's hang out, because people are like limiting their contact with others and all that. So yeah, it was weird. Austin and I went on a walk with our friend Tebow from our Mamma Mia tour, and he's been cautious the whole time, but it was just weird. Like, we all were wearing masks, and like we didn't hug him, and it was just like, this is so bizarre. Yeah. So New York City, that was that. And I got to touch on the driving stuff before I get into my headspace stuff, because the driving stuff, I gotta touch on it real quick, and I can't linger because it'll just make me too angry. So the last 6 weeks, look, let's just kick it off. There were 3 things in succession, and one of them happened 4 nights ago. And it made me realize I need to talk about it, because for some reason the universe has been throwing things at my car, maybe as a test, or maybe as a way to make me become a better driver, or a more prepared driver, or a more aware driver. But 6 weeks ago, roughly, I was driving to Orange County to visit my family, and a rock in a construction part of the freeway, a rock came and hit my windshield very hard. Mind you, it was probably like pebble sized. It wasn't huge, but it hit, and I was like, what the hell? And I look, and I see like a tiny little crack, and I was like, ugh. Okay, I guess I gotta go get that fixed, because they make those places they can take like the hot compress and like put it on the windshield and like clear up the crack. And so I was like, I gotta go get that fixed. And then all of a sudden, like those Ice Age movies, where the squirrel puts in the acorn into the ice, and then it's all silent, and then you just see and hear the crack go. Yeah, that happened. All of a sudden, my windshield this crack starts growing on my windshield, and I was like, oh. As I'm driving, I'm like, is this about to implode? Is this what do I do if my windshield like cracks in front of me? Granted, that would shattering. I look back now, and that obviously wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't just like all of a sudden exploded in front of me. But when you're driving and you're surrounded by cars, that goes through your head. And so I was like, geez, okay, what do I do? And so it starts cracking, and thankfully it stopped like halfway up my windshield. So I'm not like happy that thankfully in the sense that it didn't shatter in front of me, but unfortunately, I realized, okay, I'm not driving back to LA until I get this fixed, because now with my current luck, if another rock hits my windshield, the windshield's like extra screwed, and maybe it will shatter. So that was number one, and thankfully there was a really great company out there. Shout out to Glasscraft, and I was able to call them, and because I called my insurance first, and they were like, "Look, this is your deductible, blah blah blah. It might not be worth doing this, this, and this, but there's a company. Call them." I called them. The next day, they brought out a new windshield for me and replaced it in the driveway. Fantastic. So that was one thing, and I was like, "Okay, we're leaving that behind." Me and Trey and I, we're getting stronger because of it. 3 days later, I am leaving my apartment in Hollywood, and there had been surprise construction, because everybody's building apartment buildings in all over LA and all over Hollywood, and they all look the same. Tell you that much. They're not like cutesy looking like, wow, this is so LA chic. No, it's all boxes. Why are you guys doing that? There's one being built right out there. Remember I talked about the construction? Thankfully, they don't start at 7 a.m. every day. But guys, stop building boxes. If you're going to build fancy apartments, make them look cool on the outside. Don't make them look like everything else. Anyway, there was some type of, I think it was road construction. And so I was driving through it. And what are the chances of this? I drove over like some piece of like metal shrapnel on the side of the road. I swear to God, I drove over a freaking crowbar. And I didn't know until I heard a loud bang on my driver's side door. And immediately I was like, that's something. That's not going to be like, oh, wow, whoops, that's some dust on my car. No, I was like, that's going to be something. And I pulled over. This was 3 days after I got my windshield replaced. I pulled over I pull onto a side street, and I get out, and I look, and there's a rather deep scratch / dent on my driver's side door now. I would say about it's 7-8 inches long. And I just look at it, and it's a dent, and it's a scratch, and it took off the paint, so it's not like just touch it up. No, I now have to go take it somewhere if I want it to get fixed. So I look at it, and I was on my way to working, and I was just like, I can't be upset right now. I don't have the energy to be upset. And so I just got back. I wiped it off to see the damage. I took a photo, and I just got back in the car and put my music back on. I was like, I cannot be upset right now because I'm about to go work and I don't have the energy. So that was number 2. I was like, there's a coup. Someone is doing something. Whoever you are, stop hurting Trey. So that was number 2. And I thought that we were leaving that all behind. And thankfully, I got in contact with this guy who has a body shop, and the price isn't bad, but it's still multiple hundreds of dollars. I think to fix that scratch, I think it was roughly $400, because it's a dent too, which like I guess isn't terrible, but it's also right now not my priority in terms of money because I'm not able to throw money around right now just willy nilly. No one uses that term anymore, by the way, willy-nilly. No one says that. I just did. You're welcome. So the price isn't terrible, and I trust this guy at the body shop, but because it was someone that my dad recommended, and he says he does good work, which, funny side note on that, 8 months ago, these guys were installing electric vehicle chargers in my garage downstairs in the apartment building, and surprise, they were carrying around some metal tubes, and they scratched the side of my car. Thankfully, they weren't deep, nor did they dent anything. But after I wiped the dust off from their work that they didn't clean up, I noticed the scratches. I forget if I talked about this, but I ended up talking to the company. I was like, look, your guys scratched my car. Like, here's photos. Here's the proof. And so they're like, all right, we're going to send a guy your way, and you can go to a body shop of your choosing, and we'll pay for it. So I brought this guy to a body shop in West Hollywood, and they are swindlers, which it worked in my favor because I brought, oh my God, looking back now, it's crazy because this dent on the side of my door was $400 from a trustworthy guy. I brought these minor scratches to a West Hollywood body shop, and it's just proof that body shops in Los Angeles are just trying to scam you. And that's not an exaggeration. These people, I walked in, granted it was kind of my fault because I was like, hi, body shop man. This person here with me is going to cover the full cost of this repair. Can you give me a quote? So in that guy's head, I think he was probably like, oh, great, this is going to be fully covered. I can jack up the price all I want. He asked on the quote, he put, I think it was $1,300. He put $1,300 for some minor scratches. And if I was just in there by myself, I would have been pissed and I would have been like, okay, bye. But he handed me the quote and I saw the price and I was like, this is absurd. But I handed it off to the guy from the company that scratched my car in the first place. And then 4 or 5 days later, they gave me a check. So I was like, oh, thank God that the swindler actually helped me. And also, he's not getting my business anyway. So scratches on the car. That happened. And then I thought all the car stuff was done. And I told you this is just teaching me to be a better driver. I thought all the car stuff was done. 4 nights ago, I'm driving along Sunset Blvd, and I chose to take Sunset instead of Santa Monica going back to my apartment because Sunset at night is kind of nice. There's like lights. It feels almost Times Square-y, whatever. And it feels classic. It feels like, wow, like I'm in Hollywood and here's Sunset Blvd. And this is so like movie-esque. So I chose to take Sunset instead of Santa Monica, like Waze was telling me to do. And I am approaching a stoplight that is green. I have the right of way, but I see someone crossing the road. Mind you, Sunset Blvd is completely empty. No one was around. And so I see someone crossing the road very slowly. And so I slow down, even though I technically could have just kept going and gone around them. I was like, no, let me slow down. Like, I'm not in a rush. Let me just let them cross. Because it's not like they were taking just like a straight line across the street. It's like they were doing a big diagonal, just kind of taking the long way. So I was like, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to let this person go. And I'm slowing down, and I'm seeing that it's a girl in her mid-20s, and I'm slowing down even more. And then she makes she diverts her attention directly to me, and I'm slowing down more. And at this point, I'm pretty much at a halt. I've now stopped, and she's walking directly at my car. And I was like, she doesn't look menacing, but this is weird. And then I look at her, she's giving me like a death stare. She's looking right at me, and I'm stopped. Now, looking back, I really should have just like made a sharp right and been like, okay, don't care what's about to happen. I'm going now. But this had never happened to me before. So I was like, does this person need help? But no, she was just death staring me. She was just like walking towards the car, like in a freaking desperado way, just like, you know, like we were about to be in a freaking like, Red Dead Redemption gunfight. And death staring me, walking towards the car. And I was like, what? And I'm looking at her just like confused because, again, she didn't look menacing. And then she stops at the front of my car and throws her phone at my windshield. And you want to know what I said? This is what I said. She throws her phone. I go, what the fuck? And I'm like looking at her, and then she's walking by my driver's side door. She keeps walking. She's walking by my driver's side door, and I'm like looking at her because, mind you, I'm lower. I'm in my, it's not a mid-size SUV. It's not a tall car. I'm like looking up at her, like watching her walk, because I'm just like, what do I even do? Like, obviously I should have just gone, but I didn't want to like seem like I was about to hit her. So I'm just like looking at her, and she has something in her hand. I didn't know what it was, and it looked like it was a type of spray or something. She was like, I thought that she was gonna like spray something on my windshield. It looked like maybe it was makeup. I don't know. Could have been something more menacing than that. I don't know. But then she walks by. She's still death staring me through the driver's side window. And then I guess she picked up her phone off the ground and then just kept walking. And I'm just sitting there stunned. I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, what did she think that I was about to hit her? I was fully stopped. I slowed to a halt. Did she think that I was like challenging her? And I don't know. I don't know why that happened. All I know is all I could think was, I just replaced this windshield, and now people are throwing phones at it. So I did a little U-turn, and I watched her keep walking across the street, and I was like, do I follow her? Like, I'm pissed. I'm pissed right now. Like, I want to see where's she going? What's she doing? Do I call the cops? Because we can't have people throwing phones at windshields on Sunset Boulevard. But then I realized that's not the worst thing happening in Los Angeles right now. At that current moment, there was probably other stuff that the cops were dealing with. So I was like, I guess I'm just gonna go home. And so I got back. Mind you, I was in the middle of a great song, and she completely ruined the mood of it. I get back to my apartment, and I check the windshield, and there's like a slight scuff on it. Nothing, nothing notable. But I was like, this needs to stop. And looking back now, you know how you always like replay arguments and things in your head and what you should have done differently? Looking back now, I wouldn't have done this, but I really wish that I had. I wish that I'd opened up the door and grabbed her phone off the ground and gotten back in my car and driven off. If you throw your phone at me, whether it's at me as a person or at my car, you are throwing it at my space. Therefore, it's my phone now. You throw something at me, I'm going to catch it, I'm going to walk. If you throw an apple at me, I'll catch it and I'll be like, cool, now I have an apple. Am I going to eat it? No, because of COVID. But it's mine now. So same goes for an iPhone. You throw your iPhone at me, it's mine now. I own it. So I look back and I wish that I just opened the car door, found it on the ground. Of course, who knows where it was. The annoying thing is it bounced off my windshield and like on top of my car and then onto the ground. It just would have taken too much time, and I don't know what she was necessarily holding in her hand. If anything, maybe it really was just like lipstick or something. I don't know. I don't know. It would have been a very bad idea. And I'm not trying to say that she had a weapon because I don't think that she did, but I'm just saying that there was something in her hand. I didn't know what it was. So when you don't know what is in something's hand, when you don't know what is in someone's hand at midnight on some Sunset Boulevard, you probably should just stay in your car, right? But I look back and I'm like, that would have been so cool if I had just been like, okay, thanks for the phone, and driven off and gotten home. And you know what I would have done? Here's what I would have done. And I'm sorry if it's gonna make you mad, I would have smashed it. I would have taken a hammer. I literally would have taken a hammer and smashed that screen. Nah, I guess I could have taken the SIM card out and sold it. But you'd have to disable Find My iPhone. There's a whole process. But in my mind, when I got home, I was like, I should have smashed her phone. You throw shit at my windshield, I throw your phone at the ground. Or what I also could have done is grabbed it and just chucked it, across Sunset Boulevard. Be like, okay, go fetch. Go fetch. Oh, it made me, I was just like, I was half mad, but like half stunned. I'm just like, what happened there? So that's yeah. It's a journey of car things happening. So thankfully, those are the most serious things that have happened, and thankfully I'm safe and all that. But it just never has there ever been a time, especially within the span of 6 weeks, where 3 separate outside forces have quite literally thrown things at my car. Wow, that's crazy. So I guess I'm becoming a more aware driver. I leave the house now and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to dodge. I'm ready to do it. Because even a week ago, pre-phone throwing incident at my windshield, I was like, this stuff happens all the time in LA. You just got to get used to it. It's like how you get used to dealing with stuff on the subway in New York, or, I guess, no, I mean, in driving in general, you got to get used to other people being idiots. And in Los Angeles, you got to assume people are stupid or texting. It's either one or the other, or both. So yeah. And in a major city like this, where everybody's on the road, it's not like, we're in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the freeways are open and city streets are not crazy. Like that, I now leave the house and I'm like, let's do it. I was leaving once and someone was coming out of their parallel parked spot, and I very clearly had the right of way because it was a green for me, and they just come on right out, and thankfully they missed me. But I was like, really, guys, you're not even looking. It's crazy. So those are the driving woes. And what I have to close with is what I was talking about earlier, about where my headspace has been recently. Because I felt this, and actually it goes hand in hand with all that stuff. With the car stuff, because even with the last 2 things that happened to the car, I felt myself. I hit a point, where I was thinking about it for half an hour or whatever, and then I was just like, there's no point in stewing on this. All I can do is like kind of create a plan of action and keep moving. Okay, cool. I have to accept that this big old scratch on my car, which also, like, the least of anyone's concerns right now is a scratch on your car or a dent, whatever. Like, these things that happen to the car can all be considered very petty, and that's fine, but like, they happen and I want to talk about them. But with those, I just hit a point where I was like, I can sit here and stew on it and just make myself more angry, but I can't change what happened. So all I can do is move forward and accept it, and then I'll figure out the next step later, And I realized that the way that I was handling those, when I just hit those moments of realization, like, okay, cool, that happened. No point in stewing over it. I was like, I've actually been doing that more with things in life too. And it came hand in hand after that episode with Rachel Josefina, because she got me thinking all about how, because we briefly touched on karma, and how we always see karma as like a negative thing of like, oh, well, if you're a dick to others, like, negative shit will be thrown right back at you. And it's kind of the same. I mean, it is in terms of positivity and the way you approach things. And so in terms of like job stress and career stuff, I've found myself approaching the concerns of it all in a very calm manner, more calm than I ever have before, which is exciting for me to notice a shift in my headspace. Because, early 20s, especially in New York, I was like, all right, what am I doing? I'm not doing enough. Oh my God, I'm 23. I'm so old, which laughable. And I was always just like stressing. I'm not far enough. I'm not this, I'm not that. And just finally hitting a point where I'm like, look, as long as I keep moving forward and I keep taking active effort to better myself every day and do what I can and accepting that more often than not, it's it's not only our choice, but how it's our choices that all add up, but also the way that we respond to situations. There's some insightful saying, I can't think of what it is, but it's not necessary. It's something along the lines of like, it's not about what happens to you, but about how you respond to it. And so that's kind of what I've been focusing on recently. And in a weird way, it's been paying off in terms of like, I don't want to say money stress, but in terms of jobs, because right now, a lot of people are unemployed, especially in the entertainment world. We're all like refiguring out survival gigs. Like I was working a lot of events to pay the bills, and obviously in my apartment in Hollywood, and obviously when everything hit, like events are slower. They're picking up a little bit, but I'm also kind of trying to sway away from that world because you get a little tired of it, but also, especially right now, like bartending with a mask on for 8 hours is not enjoyable. And so like events have shifted. They've become a little slower, obviously, in general. So I'm trying to sway away from that. But it was just interesting. I was realizing that the way that I was putting myself out there towards people that I'd worked with in the past was coming back at me in a positive way. Because like every one of my colleagues of the last year, whether it's events or the restaurant that I very briefly worked at or whatever, I was always trying to put my best foot forward. And then it's really exciting to see that energy come back at you, because randomly about 2 months ago, I got a call from a guy that I've worked with a bunch, and he was like, "Hey, like you're a really trustworthy guy, and I trust your work ethic. I'm working privately for this family in their big estate, helping them out around the house and yada yada yada, and it pays really well. This and this. Would you be interested?" And this was just at the point where I think that it was right after my CARES Act money ran out. The extra boost of unemployment. I think it was just after that, because that week where it was running out, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then when I finally just took a breath, I think a couple weeks later was when that phone call came in. I was like, wow, that's very timely. And then right after that ended, that was only for a couple weeks. Right after that ended, no, actually, around that same time, I got a call from a guy that lives in LA now, but I knew in New York. He literally sublet me my first room there in the apartment that I ended up moving into. He sublet me that room, and then later on he moved to LA. He calls me around the same time, and he's like, "Hey, I drive part-time for this company on Fridays, delivering their products, yada yada yada. I'm going to be out of town for a week or two. Would you want to cover me there?" And I was like, oh my God, 2 job opportunities just came out of nowhere. Yeah, of course. And so that happened, right? And so those were 2 things that happened. And then I went to New York, and I was like, all right, time to figure out what's going to happen next. Like these 2 weeks are slow, but when I get back to LA, let's figure out something else out. I don't know what, but things have popped up in the last 2 months that have been positive. Let's just keep a calm energy and go for it. While I'm in New York, I get a call from that company that I've been driving part-time for, or not part-time, I mean driving on Fridays for. That's the most part-time of part-time. Literally just driving on Fridays for them, delivering their products. And then they call me while I'm in New York, and she was like, "Hey, we are opening a pop-up store for about 3 months. Would you be interested in working for that?" And it's a really great company. I like their products. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I have technically nothing else going on, and I was kind of going to be looking for the next step while I figure out, a quote unquote survival gig, or survival job, whatever. Just something as an actor here. It's like you have to figure out something that's flexible, that pays well enough, but that won't overtake your life. But right now, with everything on pause, I'm like, yeah, sure. I like this company. I like you guys. Sure, I'll work part-time at your pop-up. So it was just this weird succession of events that all came from me just saying yes and being open. And it makes me excited because that means that is possible in other aspects of my life. Because right now, that to be honest, those opportunities were purely me saying yes, just because, okay, yeah, I obviously need money and this is work coming my way. But the fact that that type of energy was coming back at me from me putting it out there means that it's possible in other aspects of my life. So it's not about forcing something to happen. It's about doing what you can, being a good person, and being good to other people, and trusting that everything will find its way. You get what you give. And so it just had me thinking the other day, and I just was in a very, very good mood. And it's something that I need to focus on. Just anytime I get stressed out, I'm like, look, you can't. It's like finding your new favorite song or your favorite artist that you can't necessarily seek it out. It somehow finds you, and you listen. You hear a song, you're like, well, what? Oh wow! Oh fuck yeah! Oh, I love this song. Uh, and it's the same thing with career stuff. It's like I try to plan out every possible step of my career, but it's like there's no way to plan these things. Something could pop up tomorrow or 6 months from now that I had not planned. That is a huge opportunity or whatever. There's no way to plan. So all you can do is have an outline and approach these things. And same goes with relationships. You can't force yourself to find the one. Like things just align. So yeah, I don't mean to get all guru-esque on you guys, but that's the place that I've been in, and it really is. It's helping me embrace LA more. Even just driving on Fridays, I've seen so much of the city, and I'm starting to really enjoy LA more and settle into my life here more. Even though right now there is no normal, just being more open to expanding my social life and this and that. And obviously, again, right now it's tough to have an expanding social life, but it's more like I'm not down in the depths because of it. I'm like, no, these things will happen, and it's not going to be me forcing it or me being upset that it hasn't happened yet. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about that. I mean, I could talk at length, but it would just be me rambling and finding it as we go anyway. So I guess with that topic of mindset, I encourage anyone listening to adopt the fact that we're not thrown anything we can't handle, because that's true, and it's easy to forget, and I'm going to forget it in an hour, and I'm going to have to remember an hour after that. We stress so much, and especially in times like these, where there's so much to be anxious about. It's just important to remember that the way we start our day is very important, and the energy that we go out with is very important, and people pick up on it. People pick up on the positive energy, and not saying that you have to always force yourself to be positive, but it's more, I would say, in my non-expert opinion, it's less about being constantly positive and more about embracing that negativity is a thing, but not getting lost in it. Because the second you start dwelling and shoulda, coulda, woulda-ing and looking back and wishing you could have done things differently and just getting lost in things you cannot change, which is the past, and also things you can't control, which to an extent, which is the future. Because you can't control what I couldn't predict a girl throwing her phone at my car the other night, but it happened. We can hopefully shape the way the future goes, but we cannot plan the way that we like to plan. There's a saying that's something like, man plans and God laughs. So we just gotta, we just gotta keep moving and not dwelling and being our best selves, everybody. And I think that's going to be the closing statement of this podcast, because that's what Boulder Uphill is all about. So if you stuck it out this long, guys, thank you for being here and listening. I am very, very grateful that this community is growing and that people are hopping on board, and I'm excited for the upcoming guests. And if you haven't yet, subscribe on all the podcast, or on whichever podcast platform you use, which is whatever, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon at some point, yada, yada, yada. We're also on YouTube. If you want to catch clips from the show or just see photos of guests and all that, go to at Boulder Uphill Pod on Instagram, or follow me as well on Instagram at Brian Whitehill, which again I'm trying not to be on as often. But I'm selecting a small window of every day to be active, and then I'm trying to leave the phone or leave the app elsewhere. But that's all I have for you today, guys. So thanks for being here, and I hope you got something out of any part of this. I hope. And as always, stay bold and keep climbing.